Okay, count down with me. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Welcome back to the channel, Book Dragons. It's book review time. Before we get to this book review, please make sure that if you enjoy this video, which I certainly hope you do, like the video, subscribe to my channel if you want to get more, join my Discord if you want to talk about this and other great books, and now that that's out of the way, let's get right to the review. So this review is for And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. This is one of Agatha Christie's most widely read, most popular crime novels. There is also some controversy around it, but I'm going to start off with the book review. I'll talk a little bit about the controversy at the end of it if that's something you're interested in. There will be timestamps below. You can go ahead and skip ahead if you want to get to the controversy first, if that's your thing. Oh yeah, Chaz, I want all the juicy negative details first. Then you can do that. But that will be at the end of the video. And Then There Were None is one of the few Agatha Christie books that does not have a primary detective that is focused on. You know, you've got your Tommy and Tuppence mysteries, you've got your Poirot mysteries, you've got your Miss Marple mysteries, but then there's a handful of books that don't have any of those detectives in them, and this is one of those books. This book actually does not have one primary detective that is working to solve the case. This is a very unique type of mystery for Agatha Christie. It's a very unique writing style. So we'll talk a little bit about that. The basic premise of this book is that it takes place almost completely on a remote island. There are 10 people who have been summoned by the invitation of a Mr. Owen to come for a getaway on this remote island. And as they arrive there, they all realize that they don't necessarily really know who this Mr. Owen is, although this Mr. Owen seems to know quite a bit about them. And throughout the course of the story, people begin dropping like flies. It's based on a nursery rhyme where 1 of 10 people slowly dies over the course of the nursery rhyme. And the killer in this story follows that specific pattern. It's very well done. I really enjoyed my time reading this mystery by Agatha Christie. And what makes the story unique is not only the fact that it follows the prescribed pattern of the fairy tale, but it's also unique in the way that the story resolves itself. Because essentially, the murders go unsolved until the very end of the book, where you get a confession letter. All the time throughout the book, just like with any other Agatha Christie book that I have read, I'm always guessing, I'm always trying to figure out who done it, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, that person obviously wasn't the killer, so maybe it's this person. Then you get to the end of the book and you're like, whoa, wait, what just happened? And then there's a twist. And so, classic Agatha Christie style there. Each of the 10 people on the island seems to have their own motives for why they don't want to be found out, and their own hints as to whether or not they may be the killer. But it is just masterfully done. And the thing I love about this story isn't the fact that it is so masterfully orchestrated and woven together in a way that keeps the plot moving and keeps you interested and on the edge of your seat. And it does those things excellently, but that's not my favorite part of the story. My favorite part of the story is that as people start dying, the smaller the group gets, the higher the tensions get. You get to see the real and raw details about people's fears and anxieties and paranoia. And what if it's him? What if it's her? What if I'm going to be the next one to die? You see it bring out the worst in people, the lack of trust in people where, they just start following everybody around to all the different rooms. Oh, you're going to get coffee? Well, we're all going to go too because we can't afford to let any of us be left alone. The fear is palpable in this story. It is so strong and so vivid. And so that is really what Agatha Christie has done so well in this story, is she's portrayed so vividly what fear does to people and the lengths that people will go to preserve their own life. This is, by all accounts, one of Agatha Christie's best books, and I can see exactly why. One thing that was interesting, I was reading it on Kindle, and so when I got to the end of the book, before the epilogue, it brought up the rating screen, because I don't know if it's something in the software, but it thought the book was over, right? So I'm like, oh, okay, was that really the end? So I gave it the 4-star rating, and then I read the epilogue, and it was all of a sudden this long confession letter, and I'm like, wow, this puts a completely different spin on things. And so by the end of the epilogue, I ended up giving it 5 stars, because then I had the complete story. So it's definitely one of those books that if you're reading it on ebook, you want to make sure that you've gotten to the very, very end of the book, because it is just amazing. I highly recommend it. So let's talk about pros and cons, and then we'll get to my overall rank for the book, okay? I'll start with the cons, because I really only got a couple. One of the cons was that it took me a while to get used to the dialogue style. The dialogue was written slightly differently than any other Agatha Christie book I have read so far, so it took me a little bit to get used to. It almost read like a script. It would have one person's name said this, and then the line of dialogue below it, which isn't super typical for other Agatha Christie books I've read. So I kind of felt like I was reading a movie script in a way. On that note, it's kind of a positive though, because this book does work really well probably for a movie script. And then the other con was that I wish they had referred back to the nursery rhyme more often than they did. There were times in the story that it popped up. It's like, okay, there's only 5 of us left. Maybe we should look at the nursery rhyme and figure out what might happen next so we can avoid it. There were times that they did that, but they didn't do it maybe as regularly as I would have. But that's not necessarily a huge con for me. It's just, I think it would have helped the story flow a little bit better. But the pros far outweigh the cons. I mean, the character development in this is so spot on. You learn so many things about each of the characters that you are constantly suspecting all the characters. I mean, any one of these people could be the murderer. And so I just thought that was great. The pacing of the story was very well done. And this is a short book, it's like 200 some pages, but there is a lot packed into those 200 plus pages. This book is so hard to put down because you're constantly waiting to see what's going to come next. It didn't drag at all for me. It didn't bore me at all. I thought it was fantastically done. As far as my ranking goes, I would rank this as part of my hoard. I really enjoy it. I'm glad I own it. I would reread it. It hasn't quite hit that soaring tier from me like other Agatha Christie books have done, but I absolutely love it, and I cannot imagine not owning this book and rereading it again in the future. So good. So if you want to stick around for the controversy, then here we go. I went into this book knowing that it used to go under a different title. It used to go under the title 10 Little Indians, based on a familiar nursery rhyme, which got to the end of it, and by the time all the little Indians were gone, and then there were none, that's where the book got its current title. And I can see why they changed the title, because 10 Little Indians is culturally rather offensive. It doesn't show the respect to that particular ethnicity, and so that was already kind of problematic. And also the fact that certain mentions in the book of savages lends even more credence to the fact that these people are looked down upon, which is just absurdly wrong. Now, there is the whole other controversy that's come to light lately of censoring classic books and changing wording and changing things about these books that would be considered offensive. I'm not going to get into that topic really. There's a lot of controversy on both sides with that. I will say that for the most part, I think classics should be left alone. However, in the case of this book, I'm very glad they changed it. I mean, not just from the title prior to "And Then There Were None." That's just the tip of the iceberg. So even though that title was bad, the original title was just as bad, because that title was 10 little derogatory racial slur against black people. And I only recently found this out. I had no idea. I thought it stopped at the 10 Little Indians. Apparently it didn't. Going way back, the original title, it was released as, I don't have to say it. So in this case in particular, I think this change was warranted. I don't think it would be appropriate in this modern culture to have a book with that title on it running around out there. And the rest of the book used that word as well, so they did have to eliminate that out. So the current iteration of the book has the nursery rhyme of 10 Little Soldiers. While some of you may be thinking, oh, well, they should never have altered it at all, I don't think it should ever be promoted as appropriate to use racial slurs of any kind, especially not that one. So that's the controversy around the book. It has been altered, it's been edited for those specific instances, and I can see why. And so I just wanted to put that out there for those of you that are curious about the background of the book and the different editions and iterations it has gone through. Despite that sordid history, it has still been one of Agatha Christie's most beloved books. And I think that is deserved in its current iteration. I definitely think it is a fantastic story and a very unique murder mystery. That's all I've got to say on this book. Let me know in the comments if you found it interesting. Let me know what your thoughts are on the book, if you've read it, or if you're curious to read it. Let me know your thoughts on the controversy as well. I would be happy to discuss that with you in a calm and adult manner. So let me know in the comments below as well. And until next time, guys, make sure that you are reading more books. I'll talk with you soon.